actually talk about in this one. So we're going to go over all the positionings for the bosses. We're going to go over the tactics for the bosses. We're not going to go over special assignment like who's tanking what add-on trash or who's controlling that orb on the first boss or whatever. It's just going to be the general stuff, what we're going to do. Everything that we're going to do in detail is going to be done with those persons. If it's about tank positioning, we will talk to tanks directly, and about healers and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's get that video playing, and then I'll go ahead and explain the first boss. Alright, so it starts off with us killing these 3 orcs, who are basically just free kills. They have mechanics, but we're gonna kill them so fast that they will not matter. Just kill Skull first because it can mind control, but as you see, they die in like 3 seconds and it doesn't matter. In the video, you can see that these guys are popping sappers there. This is, I guess, nice for logs, but there's really no purpose to it, because as you can see, it takes 30 seconds for the first adds to even spawn here, and they're just AFK. So popping the sapper early, we don't need to do that, yeah? It's just cheesing logs, essentially, and kind of pointless. So here you can see this room, where in every corner they have some melees. Mobs are gonna spawn, like they're doing right now, and we just kill all of them. Back in the day, you used hunters to kite the dragonkins, but seeing we will go in there with world buffs and our damage is just way above what's needed, we can just kill everything. We're basically just gonna assign a group of melees to each corner. Healers can stand in the middle of the room, heal everyone. Tanks just pick up the dragonkins, but as you can see, they die crazy fast. Of course, we will kill them a bit slower, seeing we're not a raid made up of 30 warriors, but it still won't be a problem. I mean, we can see these guys are AFK half of the time.
Yeah. You want me to fast forward?
Let me go over some other stuff before. So phase 1 is going to be one guy, which is probably going to be a hunter, mind controlling the boss itself and destroying these eggs that you can see standing around here. And we will have to do this until all the 30 eggs are destroyed. You can see the guy has a little counter in the middle of his screen saying how many eggs are destroyed. And when the 30 eggs are destroyed, the ads will stop spawning and phase 2 is gonna begin. And that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. So in phase 2, we will actually be killing the boss, and it's gonna be tanked by this guy and me. But he does a conflagrate similar to Drakisat in UBRS. So threat is an issue here, and he is of course not tauntable. So this means you have to pay attention. Yeah, don't kill yourself. Don't necessarily go all out. He is gonna die quickly, but threat might be an issue. And yeah, he doesn't do much damage though. He does a fireball volley, which we might have to LOS. But I think while we have world buffs, we can just pre-pop fire and just zerk him down in a matter of like 30 seconds. You will see on the stream how fast he can die. And this is the overtuned private server stuff. And yeah, so we don't really have to hide. We will just zerk him down. If it doesn't work, we'll find out on the Wednesday before, because we will watch other guilds do it. And that's about it for this boss. Melees will have to fab, because he also does an AoE stun in phase 2. And that's it for real, yeah. I think we can skip until phase 2 starts, and then the people will see.
Not another one.
Okay, yeah. So now it's the last 2 eggs getting destroyed. The boss becomes aggressive.
And you don't want to line of sight at all here. You're just gonna stomp him, yeah?
Exactly. We're just gonna go for it. And you will see the conflag there. Yeah, he does the conflag. In this fight, it gets resisted, which means they don't have any threat problems, because somehow the orb that mind controls the boss generates crazy threat. And if the tank just resists, it's just easy peasy. But you can see he only did 1 fireball volley, and if we just pre-pop fire, that's 100% absorb. So in this speed run, they're trying to go fast, which means they enter this room immediately. We're not gonna do that. After we kill the boss, we're gonna wait at the entrance to this room because there's gonna be some technicians that we will pull when we run into this room and they will run away and we really want to kill them. So on our first BWL, wait after the boss is cleared, we will gather up and walk in here together. So coming up is the second boss, Velastras, and let's take a look at positioning first. We have the tank right in front of the boss, the melees a little bit to the side of him. We're also just gonna mark one melee where all of you stand on top. And then the healers and the casters are right behind the melee stack. If you would turn around, I think you won't do that. But it's really just at the wall. It's not far at all. And this boss has basically two main mechanics. The first one is he does AoE damage all the time to everyone. The second is he does Burning Adrenaline, which is basically, I think it's quite famous, most people would probably know. He debuffs a person, I think it's a mana user actually, I'm not sure, who will get all instant casts and will become a bomb like Get-On, but stronger. This person will have to then, just like on Get-On, run away from the raid. You can see it on the left of the screen of the guy just for a second. There's someone with a skull above his head running to the corner, who will show that spot. And let's actually, when they pull the pack up top, let's just pause for a second.
The important part about Burning Adrenaline is that you explode when you die. It's not like a bomb with a timer, it's when you die. So you have to keep everybody as high HP as possible when the Burning Adrenaline goes out. Because if the guy is low, he will just explode in the raid. And
exactly.
The debuff will slowly increase in damage, like 500 first, next 1000, 1500, and in the end it's gonna one-shot you. So that's why you go to the left, so you are safe to die. But you just spam your spells there.
Yeah, to be very exact, he also, the debuff decreases also your max HP. So there's no way to dodge it, nothing will help. But you will just have to, you know, go crazy for 10 seconds or whatever, and then you go into that corner and die. Most important part is to not blow up the raid, of course. And, especially for you warlocks out there, not to pull aggro, because just like almost all bosses in BWL, this guy is of course immune to taunt. So threat is going to be a major issue. I think it's going to be the main reason for us wiping on Vale if we wipe there. And our main goal with this one, which we're probably not going to meet in the first week, is to kill in less than 45 seconds. Okay.
So
I think that's it about Vale, right? You have infinite mana, infinite energy, infinite rage, so you can go all out.
All rogues backstep.
Exactly, Rogue's gonna be using daggers. You guys should also spec into improved backstep, by the way, but that's something for another time. And now we're already gonna look at the next trash, because we don't want to talk about this forever, right?
Yeah. Once the boss is dead, we have still the debuffs from Velastras, so we want to emphasize the importance of going fast to the trash and pulling them quickly to utilize the buff.
Yeah, the debuff is what gives you 500 mana per second, 50 energy, 20 rage or something like that. So it's insane how much resources you will have. You can do whatever you want. Rezzing, buffing, everything is for free essentially. The next trash packs that are coming up, these guys are doing it very fast, seeing as a speed run. They just run in there and cleave everything. We will most likely not do that in the first week or two, but we want to do that in the future. But we will go slow on the first day, of course. These packs consist of... just pause the video on pull. Perfect, okay. Okay, so these packs consist of 4 mobs that just hit, no special mechanics. Yeah, those are just gonna be tanked. Then there's 2 casters who do fireball volleys. One of them will be hibernated. The other one we will probably just kill first, because we probably don't have 2 druids. So we have to kill one of them first. And the last one is a captain who has some mechanic that just needs to be dispelled. It's nothing crazy, but we will just keep it kited by a hunter while we kill the rest and then do it last. These packs can be intense on the damage side because the mobs enrage and can hit hard. We will have to see how bad it really gets. We will most likely use 5 tanks, and yeah, that's about it for those.
And
It's
you
gonna
want
be
to pull
two of
them down into Velastra's room, right?
Exactly. The positioning is also kind of simple. We just stack all the, like, we're gonna kill all the melee, sorry, the caster first, then go for all those melee ads, just stack them up, cleave them.
So Asine will go up and pull them, and we will have a druid ready up here also with him to hibernate one of them, and then the rest will be pulled down the stairs, and down the stairs our raid will be ready to pick them up.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, and this we're gonna do twice in a row because there's two of those packs, they're exactly the same. And yeah.
This method they are using works only if you are really, really high DPS. It's high risk, high reward.
They basically use the Veil debuff to just cleave everything here. I actually don't understand so far how no one dies, because these ads do a lot of damage. But somehow they make it work. Maybe we'll get to do the same, depending on how bad they hit on this version of the game.
Yeah, here you can flash heal, okay guys?
Yeah, can be as wasteful as you want. So, as you can see, they just group, cleave, and kill. We will not do the same thing. We will go more slow. Okay. So after this trash, the famous suppression room is coming up, and here we will assign some rogues to take care of those slowing traps. We will have 3 tanks here, basically 1 for webs, 2 for picking up mobs. We will have some polymorph assignments, because there is basically 3 types of mobs here. There's the big dragons, there's the taskmasters, those are the orcs, where we will need some sheeps probably, and there's the very small dragons. The very small dragons will be picked up by some tank, probably this guy, and then the other 2 tanks are gonna pick up all the taskmasters and the hatchers. The hatchers have one mechanic, which you can see in the video. They're stacking debuffs that do increasingly more DPS. So we don't want to tank them inside the raid. We always want to keep some distance. The meaties will have to take that debuff because, well, we want a DPS, but the casters and the healers shouldn't get that debuff.
Are we pulling everything downstairs first up to the end, or are we doing like them and moving forward while pulling?
What we're gonna do is we're going to pull, I think, everything but the last mob downstairs to the start of the room, and then we're gonna move and take the last mob with us, and then keep
so
going
we're staying
upstairs.
back until you're told. That's it.
Exactly. And I want to re-emphasize the rogues who I assigned to do this, on the first raid especially. I want you to have 100% uptime, or I guess I should say downtime, on the traps, because that's really all we care about. Having a little bit less DPS is not going to be a problem. Having that slow for just 5 seconds is going to be a problem. And yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 stops in the suppression room, right?
Yeah, 3 planned stops. The first one is going to be in the little tunnel that leads upstairs, and the second and third one I will show when it actually happens. It is also quite important here that no one AoEs the small dragons. I know it looks nice on the logs to do a lot of damage on those, but it really does nothing. Only AoE those when we call for it. If I see mages dying there for no reason, it's like, what are you doing there? It's just wasting my time. Okay, so in this little tunnel, we're gonna take the first break, where we can get some, well, if we need some reses out, or maybe even a summon if someone died on the way there. But I really hope we can get through this as fast as possible, no deaths. Because if you have to stop here, it's just gonna take time and time and time, because you get in combat over and over. Okay. The patrol paths of these mobs, we pretty much know by heart from private server. If they're different here, we will have to figure it out a little bit. And we can luckily also see that on Wednesday when it releases, because we only raid on the Sunday after. So we will have good preparation for that. As you can see, the second floor of the suppression room is pretty much just like the first floor. More of the same, and not really too much to be said here. we will take a little break, approximately where they are right now, and then we will move up for the boss, which is Brute Lord Lashlayer. Okay.
How
So
long
while-
cooldown on the mobs to respawn? Is it like 15 seconds?
Yeah, I think the small drakes is like 15, 20. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that's why we have to move so fast. And we have to kill them together. If you kill one mob, it will spawn out of sync and we will be in constant combat. So you don't touch them until you're told.
Exactly.
Because we need breaks.
Yeah, remember we will not kill as fast as they do here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the boss. The positioning is very easy, and it will also be shown in the video. It's even swapping to healer perspective for a second there, so we will have perfect vision of how to position. The important thing here really is the pull, because you can see even in the video a hunter doing a volley to get those last whelps. And when we run into the boss, it's very essential that all the traps are taken care of. All the traps must be down, because if the tank, for example, runs in and gets the debuff, the threat is going to be garbage, and it's going to destabilize the whole fight, because the boss will 100% start running to cast us, and it's going to be terrible. So these traps need to be down on pull. And what also needs to happen on the pull is all the melees focusing the whelps that still exist. We want the casters to move to their position. They should not have to take care of it. Just rogues and warriors cleave those drakes, the small ones, of course, and then go for the boss.
So you want this trap down, this trap down. What about this one? Can they do that one around the corner without pulling?
I'm not sure, honestly. We will find that out.
But there
before-
are dragons, small dragons around here, behind here.
Yeah,
need
we
to
can
kill them.
100% get the small dragons, and we can dodge this trap that you
Yeah.
pointed. But in a perfect world, we would still want to have it down on the pull, at least for a couple of seconds. Yes.
I don't know if you can. They are not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. It depends on his stealth detection. We have to see how it is scripted. Okay. So here we see the run-in of the raid into the boss. And basically, the boss is tanked right off the gate and the healers are left. You can see it from the healer POV quite clear. Everyone is on the two sides of that gate. And you basically just tank the boss in the corner over there. Try to get as much damage in as possible. He has a mechanic that he does on the main tank, which is actually two mechanics. One of them is a Mortal Strike, hitting quite hard. On private server, this would one-shot us with world buffs if we didn't wear shield. And got a little bit lucky. He could hit up to like 8 or 9k. I assume that he's not gonna hit remotely as hard here, so it's not gonna be as bad, but still, Mortal Strike debuff, which reduces healing by 50%, can make it quite intense to pick the tank back up fast. So healers really need to be pre-casting a lot with big heals here to keep the tank topped at all times, because losing a tank here is very bad. The other mechanic that the boss has is he's gonna cut the current tank's target in half, current tank's threat in half. So if we're all up there in 50,000 threat, you will get thrown back to 25k, which is basically nothing. And then he's gonna go for the next tank, and then for the next. And at some point, he's gonna go for DPS. So we want to kill this guy as fast as possible while having 3 tanks up there in threat. And if we get lucky, maybe one tank can fight back up after getting knocked down once, but this guy is always a little bit troublesome with threat. I think everyone who's done this one back in the day knows that people did this in the weirdest ways, wanding half the fight. We don't want to do that. We want to kill him kind of quickly rather than slowly.
Yeah, the goal will be to do it before all 3 tanks has gotten hit by this. So you want to find that balance point where you kill him fast enough to only have gotten reduced 3 times.
Exactly. And if you're a warlock, let's say, who gets aggro, it's really important that you lip and that you move to the tank position, because what we really can't have is the boss running around, because he has a blast wave which will knock everyone away from him. And if the boss starts to move and knocks people into more whelps, or you know, it's gonna be very bad because you might even get knocked into a slow trap, and then you're in Africa and you will never return, basically. So the positioning here is essential. So if you get lucky crits or whatever, be prepared to lip and run in there. Even if he's gonna not target you for a couple of seconds, he might return to you when your lip fades. So just play it safe and move into the melee camp then. And then it's gonna be a-okay. You just die, and that's it.
Yep.
And what I want to put emphasis on now already, in the video the boss is already dead because he really doesn't have more mechanics. It's an easy boss. This gate opened, and there's been some incidents on private server where after the boss fight, you have people moving in front of that gate, but as you can see in the video, there's trash right behind it. So basically when the boss dies, the first thing we do is we move back into the suppression room and go kill some of the whelps, put down the traps, basically clear some space, so we have room to kill the next trash, because we're gonna fight it in this room.
Yeah, you don't go in front of this gate. If you do, you get guilt kicked. I know, but don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
If the boss dies and you go in front of that gate and you pull the next trash, it's gonna be a wipe, like basically 100%, because those technicians are just gonna destroy the caster camp immediately, and that's no fun.
But I am not so easily lured away from my sanctum.
And yeah, we instantly go back and clear the rest of the room.
Yeah, I think what they're doing right now is already, you know, giving me PTSD, because they just need to move 1 inch closer and all of a sudden they're already pulled. Okay. So let's pause the video for a second and talk about this trash. Okay, so this is the trash that actually makes up almost all of BWL trash. It's the technicians coupled with the warlocks, some draconoid mobs, and later on there's also spellbinders. I will just go through all of the mobs and what we're gonna do with them. So first one is the technicians, which is the little goblins. They're going to be tanked by a mage because their threat is linked. So they all have aggro of the same target. And what we're gonna do is we have a mage just run around them in circles and press Arcane Explosion. They don't have a actual attack, but they throw dynamite. And the dynamite basically has a little delay. If the mage is running continuously, the dynamite will not hit him, unless, well, he runs back into it. But yeah, if you run in circles, it's no problem. He will not take a lot of damage. But as soon as someone else would have aggro, they're just going to throw a lot of dynamite into wherever that person is, which might be healer camp, might be in the melees. It's going to kill a lot of people. So it's very important that we let the mage tank the technicians in a nice position where no one else should get close, because it's just a big death zone. The next mob here is the warlocks. Those are going to be our main focus on the pull, because what happens is if you don't kill them in, like, let's say less than 10 seconds, 15 seconds, they're going to spawn portals, which is going to spawn even more mobs. So we want to kill those warlocks as fast as possible. You can see in the video that they're pulling the warlocks to the right and the technicians to the left. And these warlocks are getting focused hard. This is where you can pop your cooldowns or your rage pots or whatever. And then you can see the mage arcane explosioning those technicians and the bombs just flying everywhere. So any melee getting close to this would just die immediately. Last but not least, there's the draconoid mobs, who will also just be tanked by some warrior. They just cleave and hit hard. That's all they do. So we don't want to tank them. We don't want to tank them in the melees or something. You want to face them away from the raid, and other than that, you just need a sturdy tank, because they do hit hard. And they also have vulnerability, right?
The big group has at least, yeah, they do, all of them, yeah. They have a vulnerability to one elemental, nature, frost, fire, one of them. So we gotta find out what it is. We'll have one guy call it out, or two, or three.
Yeah, so they're gonna take double damage from one of the schools of magic.
And
Might be
reduced
frost or fire.
from something else. So you want to have like a fire wand if you're a priest, so you can deal like 800 per hit. I think it's
Yeah.
more than double. It's a
I
lot.
think what we're gonna do is we're gonna assign some people to call out what vulnerabilities it's gonna be. You can just test it with a rank 1 spell, because if you see a rank 1 fireball doing 300 damage, you're gonna know, okay,
Mhm.
it's fire vulnerability. In these packs later on, like basically these packs evolve, they get bigger and bigger. At the start, it's just 2 warlocks and a draconoid, and then it starts with another flamecaster, no spellbinder, I think is the name. And then later on, it gets 2 spellbinders, and I think it's not getting more, but yeah, that's already 5 mobs plus technicians later on. The spellbinders, which is the last mob in those packs, has a flame strike that they do on the tank. So you want to tank those far away from anyone else, basically. And they're also immune to magic, so after the warlocks are dead, the medias go for that spellbinder, and the casters go for the vulnerable draconoid mob. And also AoE the technicians before. Okay.
Yep. To the boss, Thermo.
Yeah, the boss. Okay. On this boss, we're actually gonna use a different position than they use in this video, because they're using a tactic which I find not that optimal, but they can pull it off because their DPS is just so high that they don't really move out a lot. What the boss does is periodically does damage to everyone in his line of sight. And while doing that, he also stacks a debuff that increases your damage taken by exactly that debuff. I don't know by what number exactly, but basically if you have 8 stacks and you get hit again, you're probably gonna die, or you're gonna die on the next tick. Which means at 6 or 7 stacks, we're gonna move out. At least the DPS will have to. And hide until the debuff fades. You can see in this video, I think, that they don't move out at all because they kill it in like no time. And this debuff stacking is pretty much the only mechanic for the boss. Tanks will have to do some taunts for the wing buffets. This boss is actually tauntable, by the way. Tanks will have to take care of that wing buffet, and we will also have to wear our Onyxia scale cloaks, but that's just tanks. DPS can wear their normal outfit. As you can see, he's equipping the cloak of Draconic Might right there, and it's a-okay. It's a pretty simple boss. If the tank positioning and the tank taunting works, you just kill and move out at 7 stacks or whatever, depending on our healing. And the positioning we will go over when we do the BWL, because we're gonna do it a little bit different than they do it. But just play them doing the boss, and they can see the gist of it.
But we want to position him at the gate just the same, but have people around the corner, right?
Exactly. So the positioning, the boss is gonna stand at the same spot, but he's gonna look into a different direction, basically. Okay. Oh yeah, and we also need to pull this with a hunter, because this patrol path is quite annoying. So these guys are going in right away. We're not gonna do that. Yeah,
So we
on
will
the
have
pull.
all casters and range stand here around this corner. After a few buffets.
Exactly. It's gonna allow the healers to stand in a position where they will not get hit by the damage debuff, but they will be able to heal me. So they have to like find the sweet spot, and then they can just heal the tank, and it's an easy fight. So you can see the boss is dropping super fast, but the debuffs on him are stacking up. He's taking more and more damage. But because their DPS is so over the top, they just zerg it down.
Yeah, you need to hide once you take too much damage on a regular try.
Yeah,
Even in old days you would use fire resistance, but we're not gonna do that.
exactly. So what they're doing here is a big skip, which you can pause for a second. We're not gonna do that skip, of course. We're gonna kill all the trash, mostly because we need the sand for Chromagus. But also because aggro ranges are much bigger here, and the skip will not even be doable. But the only trash that is here is more of the technician packs, and these technician packs we can get them done quite quick once we get some practice. But at the start they will be a little bit tough. I'm quite sure.
This pack here in the left side, where do you want technicians tanked? By me.
I think on the corner on the left, right there. On the, well, I'm not 100% sure yet.
Yeah, we have to figure it out at least.
Yeah, we will figure it out. We can also do it in the other room.
Yeah.
Let's not go over that now, okay? Let's
Okay.
just keep with the rest. The tactic, like the mechanics is all the same. We just have to look at the exact positionings, which is something we can do in the next 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Okay, so the next pack is the big Draconoids in the back. Here we are going to use 4 tanks again. And we will not stack all of them up like this. We will have to separate the very big Draconoid, the Worm Guard, from the rest because it has an AoE stun. We will also meet more of these Worm Guards. You can see that in this raid everyone is fapping to immune that stun. We will probably do the same, but not in the first week. We will just take a chill pill because this is also very healing intense. These guys hit hard, like really hard, and they cleave. So it's very dangerous. The stun that the big worm guards do does damage. And I think if you use Fab, you, on private at least, also immune the damage. So basically, if you didn't use Fab, you would probably die as well, aside from being stunned. So we will have to see how exactly it's going to work out here.
And all of those dragonkins have a vulnerability to different elementals.
Exactly. So we will have to go over who is whatever Skull, Frost, Cross Shadow, and so on.
Yeah.
If it's nature, you know, our druid can go ham.
And you will target the school of magic that you are. If you're a warlock, you either get the shadow or the fire. It's not like you have to kill Skull. You kill the one that's vulnerable to whatever you can do.
Exactly. Okay. Now we can see coming up is more of the same trash as before. More technicians, more draconoids, warlocks, spellbinders. But these guys are just skipping. Another skip that we will absolutely not be able to do.
And the technicians have shared aggro, so it's important you don't multi-shot and don't touch them at all until I have it under control. Your mage has it under control. Once he has it under control, he's not going to lose aggro, but just don't share a whirlwind or multi-shot or anything that can touch them.
Exactly.
Or he
As
almost ninja pulled.
As a DPS, you just want to rail those warlocks as hard as possible because the more of those portals we get, the more annoying it gets. The next part in the speedrun, I want you guys to ignore for now. They're doing some next level strats here, which is way too complicated, and we will 100% not do this. So let's just skip over this pack. It's just they're using warrior tank for technicians, and yeah, it's meh. We're not gonna do it.
It's super hard.
Yeah. Only full speedrun mode should attempt this. With rank 14 and 25 warriors in the raid or whatever they have.
You have 3 of the big ones that do AoE stun also.
Exactly. So here we have 3 of the big ones. As I said before, there's even another pack of those. Here again, all melee's fab. You can see it in his buffs. We would just all get clapped and die if we wouldn't fab here. We kind of want to stack them up, but we probably won't stack all of them in the first week. We will just take a chill pill, separate, and see what happens. These guys have some like random mechanics on the tank, so they might be very shitty to tank because they can make the tank spin, and if you spin, it's like a stun basically. You're just sitting there.
Cyclone, right?
Yeah, cyclone, yeah, and you just can't do anything. But you also can't build threat, obviously. Then, so just one shadow bolt that crits for 10k because it's vulnerable might already be enough to make this guy run into raid, stun everyone, kill 5 people, and yeah, if that happens on multiple at once, then we're gonna have some fun.
Yep.
Wicked good question. Fuck off. Goddamn. Okay.
Ebon
Jesus wrote something in guild chat, sorry. Okay. Next boss is Ebon Rock. Ebon Rock is actually, I think, the most simple boss in this place. He is tauntable, which means DPS can kind of go all out. He has a wing buffet, which the tanks are gonna taunt off of each other. And he has a debuff that he does on a tank that makes him heal when he hits the debuffed tank. So every time a tank gets debuffed, the next one needs to taunt, and we just rotate all day. We're not going to use the same position as them, but it really doesn't matter. The fight is super easy.
You want
by
this
far
corner,
the easiest.
right? We put him in the corner.
Yeah, we will probably take this corner exactly. Yep. So we would pull him downstairs and just get him into position.
Is he
and
the
then
one that does the AoE damage as well?
Yes, exactly.
But no stacking debuffs, just AoE damage.
Yeah. Okay, so here he can watch the big weeks timer. It says Shadow of Ebon Rock that goes out onto a tank, and as soon as the tank gets the debuff, the next tank taunts. And when the tank loses the debuff, he can taunt for when the next tank gets the debuff. So with 2 or 3 tanks, like you can do it with 2, but we usually use 3 because of taunt resists. We saw on Rag today how bad it can be. So playing with 3 is just playing it safe. And yeah, pretty easy boss. You just kill. I think.
Yep. Drake
By
Flame
far the
Talisman.
easiest.
No, that's this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one drops which trinkets. Okay, and
Flame
Flame Gore is also pretty simple one. The main mechanics is his enrage, so we're gonna need tranking here. And when he's enraged, he's gonna do AoE fire damage, which would wreck us. So the tranking is very important here. If he doesn't trank, we're gonna wipe. And he also has a wing buffet that needs some taunting, but that's just this guy and my job. And that's it. And as you can see, they just also kill it. It's basically a trash mob. Even in a casual guild on private, you could chain pull these without any break. Okay, we have another triple Wormguard pack coming up, so this means all melees have to fab. We can stack them up, kill them as fast as possible. If we don't kill them in the duration of the fab, so if we are slower than 30 seconds, which is probably going to be the case, we would have to split them. Here you can see one going loose. Person died, shit happens. These guys can do really big damage on tanks. You can flop here quite quickly, so healers need to be on edge, and if we pull this, we have to make sure that everyone is in range and so on and so forth, because they just hit hard, and they have sometimes this big debuff that ticks for like 4k or something every 2 seconds, and I don't know, they just go ham. Okay, Golemag's position, let me just go over Golemagg in general. They're doing a little bit different tactic here in the speedrun than we are, but it's just positioning. Everything else is going to be the same. And let me just go over the mechanics of the boss. So this boss is one of the most annoying ones because he has a debuff that can't be cleansed unless you have the hourglass sand that drops off of the technician trash. And the debuff, which is only dispellable by the sand, is gonna periodically stun you. Well, actually, it's not periodic, it's random. But the stun is 6 seconds and it can chain proc. Like sometimes you would get stunned for 10 seconds straight. And it lasts 10 minutes. One of the most annoying things ever. And we only get a limited amount of sand. So if we wipe here, for example, we might run into problems with our sand usage. Which means on the first time we do this one, we're going to be very conservative with our sand usage. DPS will most likely get 0. Hunters need some for tranking because he does have a trank, essentially exactly like Magmadar. And tanks, we have to use it because being stunned is pretty bad for threats. And this one is also not tauntable. So
if he has time lapse, he will roll 3 randoms, right?
Yeah. Let me go over that in a sec. So besides this debuff that you can't dispel, he also throws out all other schools of debuffs, so curses, magic, disease, and poison. And these all need to be cleansed. So basically, healers are going to be cleansing all day. And this is also why we use restorative here to help them a little bit. Because each debuff does different effects. I'm not going to go over exactly what each one is. But the most important part is, if you have all the debuffs, you're going to turn into one of the Draconoids and be mind controlled and start killing people. And that's, of course, the worst that can happen, because if you die, you're going to heal him also for 10% of his max HP. So this is something we can never have. If you see yourself having 3 or 4 debuffs, you have to pop that restorative, and you also have to make sure that healers are in line of sight of you to even be able to get dispelled, because that can sometimes be a problem. If you position a bit weirdly, you might not be in LOS and in the end fuck up the whole raid, because if he's in enrage, which means below 20%, and he then gets healed because you die, he's gonna go back to 30 and is still enraged. And he hits like a truck when he's enraged. We really want to, time the enrage so we kill him as fast as possible, and we can't have someone get all the debuffs and heal him. We can't have that happen. Okay. And on top of this debuff shenanigans, he also has 2 breaths that he alternates in every 30 seconds. They just do damage, and melees will have to move out, and casters also, of course. The breaths mostly just do damage and have some side effect, like either a dot or an attack speed reduction or armor reduction. But there's one special case which is called time lapse, and time lapse is a debuff that stuns everyone, or I shouldn't say stun. It shifts everyone's face who is in line of sight, which is essentially saying they disappear from the threat list. So if the main tank gets this debuff, we have to have a second tank high up there in threat who will line of sight the time lapse. Then he's gonna run to that tank, and we will have to reposition the boss to get the whole thing under control again. The positioning that we use is, again, one of those where healers will be in line of sight to heal the main tank at all times. But when this time lapse comes, he will actually move into line of sight, and then we have to get him back into proper positioning. Time lapse is a very tricky one, and what time lapse essentially means for all the DPS is that you have to stay below the second tank in threat. If you don't, you will have to go in and take that time lapse and also get stunned for, I think it's 8 seconds or 6 seconds. We will go over that if we have it. I just hope we don't, because it makes the fight a lot harder. Okay. Let's look at the fight on the video.
He's also vulnerable, like the Dragonkins, to School of Magic. So your aggro threat is gonna be crazy sometimes. So you really need to watch for that. And take the time lapse. If you are in doubt, just take it. It's no downside to taking time lapse for the raid.
Yeah, exactly. You can always take.
If you get aggro over second tank, you will wipe the raid most likely.
Yeah.
If you're a caster or something, right? Maybe a melee can.
So in the video, we can see the first breath is coming in any second. It's incinerate. It's just damage. You can see he even got hit, loses like 40% HP, which is not that much, to be honest, but you should still line of sight it, seeing you just need to take a little sidestep. But that's one of the easy ones he does. Let's keep playing.
And the first time you touch him, you don't know what breath he has, but if you wipe, you will know. The next time he will stay the same, but every reset he will change his combination.
Yeah. Oh, and every time a breath comes, I think, he also swaps vulnerability to something else, right?
Yeah. Well, you see here, it's changing every 45 seconds.
Ah, yeah, okay. So if you're a mage, you might get unlucky and it might never be frost. Or never be fire.
Yeah.
It might be shadow 5 times in a row.
See, now they found out it's nature, so the add-ons should tell us that it's nature, so we don't have to announce it. Maybe.
Yeah, and there comes the second breath. Let's see what it is for them. What? Am I blind?
Ignite Flash.
Oh yeah, he took the debuff. Yeah. Okay, I was blind. Yeah, Ignite Flash is him applying a big debuff to everyone who's in line of sight. It's also one of the more easy debuffs, because if you just lost it, it doesn't do much. The other ones are a lot more dangerous because decreasing attack speed by 400% is intense, and decreasing armor by like 4.5k is also quite big. If that happens during enrage on the tank, which you can't prevent, that's pretty bad. You kind of have to use wall and kill fast. But that's Golemagg. Very volatile. If we get an easy combination of breaths, we will just kill him first try. If we get time lapse and corrosive acid, which is the armor debuff, it might be a bit more tricky. Okay, last but not least, the most complicated one is Nefarian. Let's go over the phases while you just let it play, because phase 1 takes some time.
Alright.
Okay, so phase 1 basically consists of us splitting the raid into 2 groups, left and right. On each side there's gonna be 2 tanks, there's gonna be adds spawning, there's small adds and big adds. The big adds are resistant to magic, which means they're gonna like decrease your magic damage by like 80%. Basically you don't want to hit them as a caster. And the small ones always have a color. And this color, just like Golemagg breaths, changes every week. You might have green and bronze or red and whatever, and the red ones are resistant to fire, the blue ones are resistant to frost, the green ones have a stun, the bronze ones have a attack speed reduction, and the black ones are resistant to shadow and have, I don't know, some debuff. I think that's it really. And you can see in this video that they just kill them super quick, and I very much assume the same thing will happen for us. And it's really boring, to be honest. The tanks just one tank just goes for the small ones, the other goes for the big ones, and this is really it for phase 1. Do you have anything to add?
It's mostly just a DPS check, but you can say that Nefarian meanwhile is going around mind controlling, doing AoE shadow volleys, being annoying, fearing people. He teleports between players, so sometimes on this side, sometimes on the other.
Yeah.
If we kill him super fast, it's not gonna be hard healing, I think. But if it's hard, which is probably not, then it's a lot of healing. It's just a DPS check. Phase 1.
We will probably pre-pop Shadow here. Seeing the Shadow Bolt volleys Nefarian does can hit quite hard, especially if you get hit at the same time by a spawning ad. Can always happen. And I mean, on this video it looks super quick. We're definitely not gonna be that quick. I mean, their DPS is out of this world. We will have some struggles killing this if we don't have world buffs, and it will be a bit messy. But I hope the tanks will be able to pull through, and I'm certain that we have the DPS to just.
On this fight, you need to pop Shadow Protection Potion, also greater one, just to spare healers of the healing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And we also might call your name to swap sides if the warlocks are standing on one side and it's shadow vulnerability on the other. We will swap you around and stuff.
Exactly, and sometimes we will also have the situation where the right side, maybe, you know, someone died, and we have to, and then they have problems with DPS, and the left side is doing well, and then we will send someone from the left side to the right side to help out. But this is spontaneous calls that we make during the raid. Nothing we're gonna assign beforehand. Okay.
It's super important when the Nefarian lands, he will do a Shadow Flame check on everybody. So everybody needs to equip this Onyxia Cloak, or you will instantly die.
Exactly. So Cloak is mandatory on everyone here. We will give them out before the raid. So make sure to not forget to equip them. It's always funny. Every week someone forgets it. But it's not so funny when we have to, you know, live with 1 healer less and there's 4 melees who don't get VF, or, you know, stuff like this. It's pretty bad. Okay. So for this boss, let's go over the basics. He's not tauntable, so DPS will have to chill. He fears, just like Oni, but I think he fears more like a regular pattern, because Oni sometimes fears twice in a row, and I think he will fear every 25 seconds or something. At least that's what's happened on private server. We're gonna use the exact same positioning as they do, which means he's facing outward of this balcony, and the ranged in this case are behind the melees to his, like, basically right of the boss. Okay. Let's go over the class call mechanic really quick. Just pause the video for a sec. Here's a class call for each class, and I will just go through them very quickly. Warriors get forced into defensive stance, berserker stance, and take 30% more damage. So it's heavy healing on tanks. Rogues get teleported in front of the boss, which means you would get hit by his breath and his cleave. You want to use spells like Vanish, or maybe Improved Sprint to get out of this, because he roots you, I think, also in front of him. Hunters, he's gonna break your ranged weapon. So what you want to do is unequip your ranged weapon before the next class call comes. Priest, it's gonna be that your heals do damage, so you have to stop healing. It's very important. You're gonna kill the tank quite fast if you don't stop. Druids get forced into cat form, which means someone else will have to take over your decursing duty.
Yeah, we will have
Shamans,
one mage assigned to that as backup.
Yeah. Shamans are going to drop totems that benefit the boss, which means that during this class call, all the melees are gonna go to the caster camp and just hit totems. You're not gonna touch the boss, you just kill totems, because if he procs Wind Fury on me, it's pretty bad. And the other effects are also bad, like Healing Stream and whatnot. So we're just gonna kill totems all day. And it's usually quite mana intense for the shamans, because the totems that he drops for him cost mana. So that's quite annoying. It's one of the worst calls. Warlocks are going to summon infernals that attack us. Pretty easy to kill, though. Mages start randomly polymorphing everything in their sight, which is something that can't happen on the tank, because if you polymorph the tank, he's going to lose threat, the boss is going to turn, breath into the raid, and we wipe. So mages will have to position in a way that even if you have the class call, you can line of sight and not polymorph the tank.
Yeah.
You could see in this video that there was like a giraffe running around. That's the polymorph from the
here
mages.
they are avoiding it because priests can dispel it, but if you want to be really safe, you can just move mages away from the raid, out of range, and they cannot literally polymorph anybody but themselves. So we have mages on this side, on the other side of Nefarian, and as soon as you see mage class call, you just teleport and you just hug the corner until it's over.
Did I forget any class? I don't think so.
Warrior,
I mean, I didn't talk about Paladin, but...
Forced to Berserk, right?
Yeah, warriors are forced to berserk and take more damage. And this is not only bad in terms of survivability, but in berserker stance your threat is also shit. So if we get a lot of warrior calls, threat is gonna be garbage.
Yep. Nothing else.
Okay, that's the class calls. And then besides this, he has a curse that he does on the tank quite regularly. It's called Veil of Shadow, apparently. That needs to be decursed insta because it does 75% healing reduction. And he usually hits quite hard, so yeah, we really need instant dispels. If a druid class call is up, we need a mage to decurse. If mage class call is up, we need a druid to decurse, and this needs to be done immediately, at all times. When he hits 20%, all the ads that we killed in phase 1 are going to like arise as zombies, and they kill the boss so fast here that the zombies only really arrive when the boss is already dead. But they don't have any mechanics. They are just bodies. You just kill them. But make sure not to, as a warrior, stand in the middle of them and then sapper, because they will just all turn to you and kill you. You want to kite them a bit around and then...
Yeah, all crowd control
AoE.
is usable on them. Everything.
You can see they sapper while kiting and they just go down. Okay. Did we forget any mechanic? No, I don't think so, right?
Nope.
Yeah, you can use Stratholm waters on those, you can use sappers. Stratholm has the advantage that it has a little bit more range. You don't need to be in the middle of them. You can just throw it from like 10 yards.
Yeah. You see all these little dusts that come from the mobs. They all have Stratholm water. This little dust.
Yeah.
Super effective. This is pretty much why they die so fast. Sapper and Stratholm water. It's gonna be much slower when we do it.
Yep. Yeah, and we will have to do this while we're still fighting the boss. I think that's the most mentions-worthy thing, because they just do it after. But for us, it's gonna be slower.
Yep.
Okay. I think this is it for the explanation. Do you have anything to add?
Not really, no. We will do this raid on Sunday, and those who want to do it in the puck can just watch the stream when we do it, learn from our mistakes, and have a cleaner raid.
Yeah. There's, in BWL, I think, as a last word, we can say that there's many mechanics that are easy to play, but if one guy makes a mistake, it can lead to wipes very easy, like a mage not moving out of range, polying the tank while Shadow Flame is incoming might just wipe us, or a guy on Velastras not moving out of range quickly enough when he has burning adrenaline and is gonna explode the raid, or someone in the suppression room pulling a mob that we don't want and suddenly we get overwhelmed. There's many small things that can happen that make you wipe quite fast, which means that our focus really needs to be 10 out of 10, so we can make it through there all the way without dying, and that's still gonna be our main focus. We want to play the mechanics as good as possible to get a decent time in this one, and it's much more important than an MC to get this stuff clean, especially the technician trash. Okay.
Yep.
Let's look if there has been some questions posted. No? I think we can just go back into the raid channel and talk with people.
Sure.
Okay, let's hop over. Hey!